Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And hello again, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Tider Insider Television, as we just heard, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris, and joined as always by TiderInsider.com's Rodney Orr. And we got Bama softball and baseball to get to, Rob. But we're going to get it started with football because the Tide continues to use the transfer portal to kind of fill in some gaps in the roster, as Alabama added a couple of defensive backs last week. The latest, former UAB Blazer safety Jalen Key. Let's get to the video on Key. He announced his decision to transfer to Alabama last Friday. 6'2", 210-pounder that can certainly play pass coverage, but he also made 60 tackles. So he can come up on the line of scrimmage. He's got that size. Had 2 interceptions. He's the 5th player that Alabama has landed from the transfer portal as he joins former Georgia linebacker Trez Marshall, tight end C.J. Dupree from Maryland, Notre Dame quarterback Tyler Buckner, and Louisiana quarterback who we mentioned, Trey Amos. Key chose Alabama over Florida State and Ole Miss. And, Rodney, let's jump into this. We've been talking about the portal a lot. Alabama now, even though it has one of the top-rated recruiting classes in the country, the top-rated recruiting class coming in, 5 players coming in from the portal, the latest being Key. I guess it just sticks with what we've said. If you get a chance to add a quality player, especially an experienced one that can help your roster, you do it.
Yeah, you do, and especially when you consider Alabama had lost a few players in the secondary that transferred out. Jarquez Robinson, Trequan Fagans, a couple of guys that transferred out that could have been certainly key depth guys. And, when you look at Jalen Key, you mentioned a lot of really good things about him, Gary. He's a very athletic kid, a guy that has 5 years experience at UAB. He'll be a 6th-year player. He's got the COVID year. Guy's really aggressive. You mentioned his size, great tackler, can do those things in the open field. You mentioned 60 tackles, had a couple of interceptions as well.
All right. When you looking at players in the portal and they're looking at you, obviously they expect to come in and play, and you expect them to play. Now, whether or not that's starting, we'll have to see. But out of these 5 portal transfers that we mentioned, is there one that jumps out to you, or 1 or 2? I mean, obviously the quarterback Buckner, but who do you think will make the biggest impact from the portal this year for Alabama football?
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen. Again, I really like Trez Marshall, the transfer from Georgia. I like C.J. Dupree. You mentioned him. I think Trey Amos is a fantastic cornerback prospect. He's got a lot of experience. They needed some experience there. We mentioned Jalen Key. And Tyler Buckner. Listen, I think he's got a legitimate chance to be the starting quarterback from game 1. So I think all of these guys, Gary, have a chance to not only contribute, but have an opportunity to start. All
right, I got to ask you the question that I've been asked a lot, and I think we've tried to cover it, but I'll specifically ask you. Some people have said to me, Gary, what does this say about the players that they've recruited? Is it a lack of development? Do you think any of those guys are looking at this and saying, my gosh, I need to leave? I don't think so. I think it's just, you get at Alabama, you expect competition. But I've been asked that a lot, particularly on my radio show. How do you answer the people that say this is a bad look for Alabama?
Well, first of all, I think when you have guys transfer out, you've got to look to have guys come in. I think in the secondary you've had that. I think when you lose a quarterback like Bryce Young, you have a couple of young players. I mean, maybe you feel like you need a guy like Tyler Buckner. C.J. Dupree is a guy that gives you a tight end that it can instantly come in with the size, the athleticism. I don't think Alabama really has anyone quite like him. And he's got a lot of experience. So, again, I think it depends all upon your needs.
Yeah, like we've said, the portal can giveth, but it can taketh away as well. All right, let's move on to another hot topic. It's time for Coach Talk. And Alabama's Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne, spoke with the media last Wednesday at the Regions Tradition Pro-Am Golf Tournament over in Birmingham. And one of the topics that he obviously was asked about are, NCAA athletes and coaches betting on sports. Earlier this month, Alabama terminated the contract of head baseball coach Brad Bohannon amid a widespread investigation into suspicious betting activity on Alabama baseball. Byrne made his point clear to reporters. There can't be any connection between UA athletics and gambling.
Gambling and the acceptance of it has changed dramatically, right? With online gaming, and that's a societal decision. That's a societal issue. And we obviously have a lot of things that we train our student athletes, our coaches, and our staff about on a daily basis or on an annual basis. And I do think from an integrity standpoint within the game, to make sure that our student athletes, our coaches, our staff understand there has to be a separation there. It's critical.
Rodney Byrne says that he has met with all of the Tide athletic programs to help educate them and help them understand, how you have to handle yourself in regards to sports betting. Alabama is not the only college program facing these issues. Iowa and Iowa State being investigated for athletes betting on sports. So, Rodney, this is listen. It is what it is kind of deal, especially pro sports, but college too, kind of aligning themselves with some of these betting apps and some of these things that are going on, and then having to make sure that, the athletes don't gamble. I mean, we grow up now in a gambling society. There's casinos, there's lotteries, there's legalized sports book betting. And so the message is clear, but like we've seen with a lot of messages that are sent, sometimes people don't abide by them.
Yeah. It's really hard to understand, to be honest with you, when you see the things that have happened. I mean, like you said, the education process that they have here at Alabama. I mean, there's really not an athlete or a coach that doesn't understand the ramifications of this. And so it's really kind of difficult to understand. It's not that tough of a decision if you ask me. You've got to stay clear of gambling. That's the end of it.
Rod, it's hard enough to run these multi-million-dollar athletics departments, but just think in the last few years, portal, NIL, and now all these gambling issues. This was something that just 5 years ago we really weren't dealing. Now, gambling's always been around, but my point is now it's really out there. So much has changed just in the last few years. It's a lot to deal with.
There is. But what hasn't changed, Gary, is the message. And the message has been clear over and over and over again. You can't do this.
All right, let's get on to Alabama baseball. Boy, the Crimson Tide bats. They heated up out in College Station over the weekend. Alabama lost Friday night to Texas A&M, but then when they turned it on, boy, did they ever turn it on. They ripped up 34 hits in 3 games this weekend and won the series. And in fact, on Saturday and Sunday night, they blew out the Aggies. Andrew Pinckney in particular, he's the SEC co-offense or co-player of the week after he went crazy with 3 home runs, 9 runs batted in, and 4 runs scored. Pinckney had 6 runs batted in alone in Game 2, and Alabama is now 13-14 in the SEC. What does that mean? Well, theoretically, with Ole Miss coming in here this weekend, they sweep the series, they're going to finish over 500. A couple weeks ago, you'd have thought that was almost not possible. And even just winning the series, they'll go to 15-15. Rod, real quick thought on Alabama baseball. We know what happened with Coach Bo, but boy, Jason Jackson has stepped in, and this team's playing great.
You know what? I mean, they're 5-2 since the change. I mean, this team has really come alive. I said last week, I don't think we know exactly how good this team might really be after they won the series at Vanderbilt. Now they come back and do what they did at Texas A&M. Pretty exciting.
Tell you what, they are not only in contention for a regional, they're in contention now to host a regional. How sweet would that be? That Ole Miss series gets underway on Thursday night at 6 o'clock. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, we'll discuss Alabama softball being named by many many are shocked that they're the number 5 national seed after finishing 5th in the SEC. We'll have the breakdown. And we will also discuss arguably the biggest question going into the NCAA Tournament. Will the Crimson Tide have pitching ace Montana Fouts? We'll discuss coming up next on TITV, and we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, call us at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can email us. You can even tweet at us. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV.
Realistically, you see your name pop up next to that 5. What's the first thing you're thinking?
I can't say it on TV, Dari. I'll say holy buckets. How about that?
Wow, what a reaction. Alabama softball will host a regional for the 18th straight year and in line to host the Super because they are the national number 5 seed. I think even the team and Coach Murphy were surprised that they got that 5 seed, but boy, how sweet it is. Welcome back to TITV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Alabama softball is home for the upcoming NCAA Regional, and if it advances, will host the Super Regional next weekend against the Evanston, Illinois regional winner. Now, the other teams coming to Tuscaloosa for this regional: Central Arkansas, Middle Tennessee, and Long Island University. You could say it the alphabet regional if you wanted. CAU, MTSU, and LIU. But Alabama will play Long Island first on Friday at 6 p.m. at the Rhodes House. Now, Alabama won 2 games in the SEC tournament. They advanced to the semifinals before losing a 1-run game to Tennessee. But the question, Rod, on everybody's mind is Montana Fouts. Will she be able to go? She got hurt late in that win over Arkansas when her foot, I guess, dug in wrong or something on the dirt. She had to leave the game. She did not pitch anymore. There's the injury. You see her pull up right away, and nothing has been put out by the University of Alabama, Rob. But I got to tell you, just my experience covering athletes, seeing an injury like that for a pitcher on her plant leg, I'm just going to tell you what I think. I think it's unlikely she pitches this weekend.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gary. Based on what I've heard, I think it's probably, she would at least have to be very doubtful. But again, you never know the recovery process, how it might go, and hopefully, she'll be available.
It's a tough break if she can't go. But you know what? Alabama still should be the best team in this regional, although I know Central Arkansas's got a heck of a pitcher. And this gives others the opportunity to step up. And if they win, they host the regional. As I said, probably will be either Northwestern or Kentucky that come out of Evanston. So Alabama still got a chance to get the Women's College World Series. But with Montana, I love their chances. Let's say this, too, about Montana. She'll do everything she can if she's able to go. She'll put all the rehab in, the work in, and we'll see what happens, Rodney. But I still like Alabama to win this regional this weekend, and then you reevaluate and get ready for the Super Regional.
Yeah, and like you said, if they can get by without her, give her time to get healthy, maybe ready, as you mentioned, for the Super Regional, then I think you've got a great opportunity.
And for those around the country that are upset that Alabama got a 5 national seed after finishing 5th in the SEC, well, it's the advantage of being a blue blood. It just is. We see it in football. I mean, and the way that this place packs them out, the fan turnout, the TV ratings, the fact that you've got Montana Fouts, who's probably as well known as any softball team in the country, all that I think factors in to that decision. Plus, Alabama did play a very strong schedule. Well, still to come on TITV, Alabama men's golf doing big things out at the Norman, Oklahoma Regional. We got more on that coming up next. And your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Go ahead and give us a ring now so you can get through. 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV. What a day for Alabama men's golf. 4 of the Tide team members carded below par rounds to lead Bama to a second round score of 8 under par Tuesday at the 2023 Norman, Oklahoma Men's Golf Regional. As a result, Alabama vaulted into first place overall with a 36-hole team score, 15 under, 2 shots ahead of Oklahoma heading into the final round. And keep in mind, the top 5 teams will advance to the NCAA Division I Men's Golf Championships hosted by Arizona State University later this month. So Bama's in great shape, although I know they'd like to hold on and win this thing. All right, welcome back into TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's jump out on the phone lines. Dale down in Moundville is first up. Hey, Dale, good evening.
Good evening, guys. First of all, I'd like to say that I do think the softball team did get a bit of a break, but, hey, I'll take it. And I'd like to mention the baseball team. I think that I've been going to the games for many years, since the mid to late 90s, and I would say personally that this is the most talented team that I've seen since that time, and I just wondered what y'all thought are. And I know they've been through a lot of adversity. I think they can make a decent run in the tournament.
Yeah, we hope so. I think, Dale, and Rodney, you can comment as well. I do think that you could argue that this team, in terms of just the overall talent and depth, could be the best roster. I remember 2010, Mitch Gaspard's either first or second year after he took over for Coach Wells. That team went to the Super Regional and won the first game at Clemson before losing the last 2. And so, yeah, I think you could make an argument. This is one of the more talented Alabama teams in the last 10, 12 years.
Well, we said all along when Brad Bohannon was hired, he can recruit,
yeah.
He can evaluate. I think that was probably what he did best. And, look, Dale has been following Alabama baseball a long time. I think that's an impressive comment coming from him because he's followed this program very closely, and I'm excited about it, Gary. I think the hitting's obviously coming alive, the pitching. I think the enthusiasm, the energy is there, so I'm really excited to see how they finish it out.
Yeah, they're a good club. And Coach Bo said that preseason, that this was a really good baseball team, and now they're starting to show it. All right, let's get down or stay here in Tuscaloosa and talk with BT. Hey, Bill, how are you?
Good, Gary and Rodney. How about y'all?
Doing well, thank you.
Yes, sir, Gary and Rodney. I want to ask, do you think there's a chance that Jalen Monroe might go to tight end some?
All right, BT, to answer your question, no, I don't. He's a great athlete. He certainly could probably play other positions. He wants to be a quarterback. He is a quarterback. So he's going to be a quarterback here. That's his plan. If something happens that it doesn't work out here, then I would be surprised if he goes somewhere else and plays quarterback. But Rodney, I don't see a position change forthcoming with Jalen Monroe.
Yeah, and a lot of fans bring that up. But look, you've got to look at Alabama, too, the roster. They're loaded at a lot of these positions. I mean, a guy that's been a quarterback all his life, yeah, he's a great athlete. It's difficult just to make that transition and get on the field in a program like this.
All right, thanks, BT. Let's get one more call in. Rob over in Birmingham. Hey, Rob.
Hey, good evening. I have a question and then one comment. On the questions on the baseball team, do y'all think possibly we've got our next head coach already on staff? And then secondly, on the softball, I really question whether we're coming out of the regionals if Montana Fouts does not pitch. We just don't have the quality pitching that we really need in my mind. So, and I don't know that Fouts is going to be able to go.
All right, Rob. On Jason Jackson, yeah, I think he's got a chance to win the job or get the job. Rodney, he's done a terrific job so far, but let's see how it goes. And I do know that Greg Byrne probably is going to want to look at all his options. But the way this team's responded, if this continues, I think Jason Jackson will be a leading candidate.
And he should be. I mean, his familiarity with the players, the roster, and if he does a fantastic job, I think if the players really like him, I think certainly he should get consideration.
And, Rob, as far as Montana Fouts, I already said I don't think she's going to pitch this weekend. I still think Alabama can win this regional, though. I do. All right, thanks for the phone calls. We're going to come back with more phone calls. And also, when we come back, the Crimson Tide track and field team has had a big weekend down at the SEC meet in Baton Rouge. We'll get to that. And there's the phone number if you want to give us a call. You can still get through. And we'll take some emails as well here on TITV when we come back right after this. SEC outdoor track meet this past weekend in Baton Rouge, Alabama took home 8 medals and broke multiple records on the final day of the meet in the 5,000 meters. On the women's side, Mercy Schelling got a great runner, and Hilda Momoy finished second and third, respectively. Chris Robinson finished with silver and broke the school record in the 400 men's meter hurdles, and Taurus Oregot finished with bronze in a very close men's 200 meter. Alabama will gear up for the NCAA preliminaries on May 24th through the 27th in Jacksonville, Florida. All right, we're back here on TITV. Let's get to our email of the day, and it is brought to you by KDM Service Corporation, serving your family like our family for all your heating and air conditioning needs. KDM Service Corporation. Let's get to the email of the day, and it is from Tyler in Mobile. Is Julio Jones going to play this season? It's a good question. I think he wants to play. He's a wide receiver, though, Rodney, and this will be his 13th year in the league coming up. He's probably physically as gifted as just about anybody we've ever seen in pro football at that position. But time takes its toll, and the last couple of years have been tough for him. He was with Tampa Bay last season. I don't know if they've got plans to bring him back. I don't know if he's going to be a free agent. I know this. He's one of the best to ever do it. I still think he's got some gas in the tank. I thought we saw that late last year, finally, when he got healthy with Tom Brady and the Bucs. But as far as being able to answer that question 100%, I don't know, Rodney.
No, I haven't heard either, Gary, and I think you're right. I think if he's got some gas in the tank and he wants to do it, Julio can do it. So it'll be interesting to see, how it all kind of works out for him.
All right, let's get back out on the phone lines and talk with J.K. in Tuscaloosa. Hey, J.K.
Hey, guys, how y'all doing tonight?
Doing well.
Guys, wouldn't you like to know what Cecil Hurt would have thought about everything that's gone on in Alabama the last 12 or 18 months?
Well, he'd had thoughts on it. That's for sure. And yeah, I think we all would. Yeah, I agree with that.
My question is, why do we not see Mark Ingram on the Heisman House commercials? Wouldn't that be a grand slam instead of just having our 3 guys up there? Why is Mark not in that deal?
J.K., I don't know if it's a decision on his part or how they go about selecting who's actually in those commercials. You've probably got, what would you say, Rodney, probably 60 Heisman Trophy winners that are still alive, and you can't put them all in the commercial. I know you got Henry, you've had Bryce, you've had Devontae, so I guess maybe they don't want to put all the Alabama guys in there. I don't know.
Ingram was in the earlier ones.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, I think he was in the very earlier ones.
Well, he might have already been in one.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the reason he hadn't been on it lately. But Rodney says he was in there early when they started him out. All right, let's get to an email. And this is From Marty in Tuscaloosa, why did Coach Sal go to Colorado? Well, Marty, he wants to coach on the field. And he was brought back here to coach on the field. He was made a special assistant to Coach Saban. I think he appreciated being back at Alabama. He loves it here. But he's a football coach, and he wanted to coach football. And Coach Prime gave him a chance to get back out on the field and coach football players. I mean, that's some simple ways I know to put it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, Gary. I think a lot of people thought that maybe Sal was at the end of his career in terms of wanting to be on the field, but you're right. I think he had a burning desire to coach. He's a great coach. He's a great recruiter, great talent evaluator. Let me tell you, they have a really good defensive line coach. Now, again, he coached outside backers here. I think he's coaching, defensive tackles there at Colorado. He'll do a great job.
Yeah, as I heard in a movie one time, I don't think he was too hip on polishing the seat with his rear end. You know what I mean? I think he wanted to get out there and get busy. So it's a good hire by Coach Prime, I'll tell you that. Charles Kelly, too. All right, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, Alabama football has announced the start time for a big college game this fall here in Tuscaloosa. We'll have that for you as TITV. We'll be right back after this. All right, here we go. Kickoff time for Bama, Texas on September 9th is set. 6 p.m. at Bryant-Denny Stadium on ESPN. This is going to be a big one. We know that Coach Sark and Longhorns almost got Bama last year in Austin, and a lot of people picking Texas to make it to the college football playoffs. This is going to be a big game, week number 2 for the Crimson Tide, 6 p.m. on ESPN. Quick note, Rodney looked it up. Mark Ingram has been in some of those Nissan Heisman commercials. JK, he was one with Lamar Jackson, just hasn't been in any of the recent ones. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of TITV. We're going to leave you real quickly with some video from the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies this past week. And among those going in, former Bama players, Roman Harper and Jackie Sherrill in football and Gerald Wallace in basketball. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Catch a replay tonight at 10:30 or anytime at WVUA23.com. Good night, everybody.